Hi everyone, it's Rachel Alvarado here. I have an interactive card to share with you today that features the new On the Move Slider Channels Dynamics. This dynamic set comes with 3 different dies. It has 2 slider channels as well as a border die. I combined this set with the brand new Alpine Friends stamp set. This set is so cute. It has so many adorable images and really cute sentiments. So to start, I cut a piece of smooth white cardstock to 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. I used some Something Blue MFT Premium Dye ink to start blending my background. I like to start with my darkest color first and then work my way to the lightest color. The reason that I'm starting toward the bottom center of my card and not at the very bottom is because I knew that I was going to cover that part with some snowdrifts. So after I was finished with the Something Blue, I went ahead and used some Lazy Day Premium Dye ink, and I just lightly blended toward the top of my card just to get a little bit of a variant. Next, I put a little bit of water on a paintbrush and just splattered it on top of my ink blending and then blotted it dry with a clean paper towel. If you look at the edges, you can see that I have some dark splotches of ink, and this is why I like to have a piece of cardstock that's slightly bigger than what I'm going to end up with. I trim my edges now at 4 inches and 5 1/4 inches just to remove those ink splotches. So I wanted to add a snowy look to my background. I used some Copic opaque white paint and I added it to my glass mat. I sprayed it with a little bit of water to dilute it, and then I used my paintbrush to splatter it onto my card. And all you have to do here is lightly tap your brush and it will go pretty much everywhere. But I love how it looks and it really adds to your card. Okay, now that my background's done, it's time to add the channel. I used the smaller of the 2 channels and I put it about 1 inch from the top of my card, ran it through my die cutting machine off camera, and cut the channel out. Next, I grabbed an MFT slider element and then die cut a small circle from white cardstock. One thing to remember, if your channel is going to be placed on a background that's ink blended or darker, you might want to save this piece so that you can glue it to your background without having an obvious gap in your card. I went ahead and adhered that slider element to my circle with some liquid adhesive, but double-sided tape would work just as well. Once you're finished, you should have a slider element that slides smoothly through that channel. So this next part isn't necessary, but I did a rough draft before I did this video, and I found that my slider was not moving very easily on its own. So I went ahead and glued a penny to the back of the card, and this way whenever I tilted my card to the left or the right, the slider moved easily on its own. Next, I added some foam adhesive tape to the back of my card, and you want to make sure that you don't get in the way of the slider. I made sure to leave plenty of space between my slider channel and my foam adhesive tape. I recommend that you check and make sure that your sliding mechanism can move easily before you attach your panel to your card base, because once it's attached, you're going to have to pull it apart to fix it. Simply move it back and forth, make sure that you have room, make sure that your sliding mechanism moves freely. I added the rest of my foam off camera and then adhered my panel to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. Again, I double checked, make sure everything was working smoothly. I then cut a piece of smooth white cardstock to 4 by 4 inches, and I used that long cable stamp that comes with the Alpine Friends stamp set to stamp a black line. Now, you can use this as a cable or you can use it as snow, a background, but it matches perfectly with the border die that's included in the On the Move Slider Channels Dynamics. I went ahead and die cut this piece off camera, and then I added my sentiment with some black ink. I like to add my sentiment before I adhere these pieces to my card because it's a lot more difficult once you attach them. The reason I created this piece was to cover my slider channel. You do not have to cover the channel. I just prefer having it covered. And what I did here, I used that negative piece from the channel and I went ahead and attached it to my slider element. You don't have to do this, but this was an easy way for me to use a piece that I already had to attach my ski lift. You could also use a clear piece of acetate here if you really wanted to hide this piece, but once everything is assembled, you'll see that you can barely see it. Next, I went ahead and added some foam adhesive tape to that piece that we had just added the cable stamp to. I made sure that I kept my foam just to the outer edges, that way it didn't get in the way of the sliding mechanism. Again, you don't have to do this part. You can leave your sliding mechanism as is, but I think that adding a cover over top of the mechanism adds a little bit of mystery to your card. So now that everything works perfectly, it's time to add my images. So off camera, I went ahead and stamped one of the ski lifts from the Alpine Friends stamp set. I colored it with Copic markers, and then I die cut it with the coordinating dynamics. Here I added glue just to the very bottom of that piece, and then I went ahead and attached my ski lift to that sliding piece, placing it so that the top part goes right over top of the cable. And then when you move it, it looks like they're riding along. I die cut 2 panels from some smooth white cardstock using the stitched Snowdrift Dynamics, and I went ahead and adhered those to my card with some foam adhesive tape. Lastly, I added some trees and a cute little house that came from the Alpine stamp set that I had colored off camera. I placed these images randomly on the front of my card just to give it some added interest. And that's it. Now you have a cute interactive card with some really adorable images. I just love how they go perfectly together and how sweet they look riding along in the ski lift. And then when you tilt your card right and left, it moves. I really hope you give this type of card a try. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you next time.